Hi everyone, thank you for coming back to my channel. This is the part 2 of the Mark of the Beast technology that will be enforcing in the next few months. Okay, let's get started. The device is indeed a microchip. The microchip can be implanted in virtually every part of the human body, even in body cavities. Use your imagination. The microchips serve as both transmitters and receivers. Those microchips are encased in a substance that does not irritate the flesh around them. The remote operators, the handlers, use a handheld device, probably a small radio or a cell phone, that in conjunction with cell phone towers activates the microchips, which is 5G towers. The users or handlers also communicate with each other by cell phone. The users do not have to be physically present in a single location to coordinate their efforts, but can instead use conference calls from various locations. The microchips can be shut off by the initiators. The microchip lasts indefinitely as it can be continually recharged. The microchip software can indeed see the target's body and even the organs inside his body. The microchip can be programmed with a vast variety of software that renders many of the physical and neurological effects, the voices, etc., experienced by targets. Those effects can be programmed to occur whenever the programmer wishes. Users, operators of the microchip can monitor several targets at the same time by remote. Distance was not mentioned in that pattern. In the drawing that accompanied the pattern, communication is depicted by 3 cell phone-looking towers. Patterns, however, are often written in a vague and misleading manner, especially those patterns that can also be used for unethical, intelligence, or military purposes. Thus, the communication system shown could be the triangulation of satellites. The use of satellites would make the pattern workable at any distance. Even regular radio frequencies patched from one area to another would allow the handlers to operate from a vast distance. Likewise, the device used to communicate with the microchip was not mentioned specifically, although the 3 towers were shown in the figure demonstrating how the pattern works. The narrative did not state whether the device was a radio tuner, cell phone, landline phone, or some type of scanner radio. Moreover, the radio towers may have represented a triangulation of satellites. The microchip's computer software determines its effectiveness. By adding new software, the microchip can be adapted by remote to the target's evolving situation and change in location. Additional software tailored for the particular target can be introduced into the microchip by remote at any time. That software can be continually refigured and reprogrammed as necessary, based on the target's actions and reactions. To be used in human body by remote, microchips must have a unique identification ID, such as a symbol, a number, a word, or a combination of those. There is even some evidence that the target's DNA profile, or a distinct part of it, may be inscribed on the microchip. The target's ID has to be known and entered into the handler's device for a match before it can be contacted by remote. Once the codes are matched on the microchip and the device used by the handlers, the device computer software, without which the device is useless, acts through contact with the microchip to carry out its various and many purposes. There must also be a radio frequency to connect the sender to the receiver, becoming an FRID, radio frequency identification, much like that used in store scanners at the checkout counters. The device used by the handler who operates the device and software must be reasonably small and portable, battery operated. The name of that device is carefully avoided in the patents. However, it will probably be a common or perhaps customized cell phone, a small radio or scanner, laptop computer, or a similar object that has both receiving and transmitting features. Logically, only one handler has use of the computer that controls all the functions of the software on the target through the implanted microchip. Otherwise, the computer commands could conflict and negate each other. Nevertheless, other handlers using those handheld devices can doubtlessly locate the target using the device. The trainer manual doubtlessly instructs the handlers to vary their methods of attack on their targets. Some targets may get the V2K and no neighborhood stalking. Others may outwardly receive only the electronic effects, jots, vibrations, and pinprick. Still others may get a combination of electronic effects, V2K, and organized physical stalking. That is totally by design. For if the same technique were used on every target, it would be far easier to research that technique, develop shielding for it, and possibly to trace it to its origin. Introduction of the microchip into a target's body can be performed in a variety of manners, through shots and inoculations, through medical procedures, through tiny projectiles, microscopic darts, and drugging the victim first and then administering the microchip. Apparently, many targets are tagged using the latter method. Hypnosis often accompanies the act so that the target will not remember being drugged. Software and its uses for ESMC, physical effects. Everybody has seen movies in which scientists manipulate radioactive and other devices from behind glass walls with instruments by remote. Nowadays, doctors can do the same thing, except at a much greater distance. Physicians can monitor and adjust their patient's heartbeat rate, blood pressure, and other bodily functions by remote over hundreds, probably thousands of miles. I know a person in South Louisiana whose heart doctor lives and practices in Houston. Whenever the person experiences an irregular heartbeat, he simply calls the doctor, who then monitors the patient's heart using his computer software and adjusts the heartbeat rate by remote. The doctor's device must necessarily key in the ID number or symbol or the patient's pacemaker to be able to do that. Other software can analyze the target's voices and heartbeat to detect emotions such as anger, sadness, untruthfulness, loneliness, anxiety, depression, and others. One such program measures target's pulse to accomplish that same purpose. The pulse rate tells the handlers whether the target is lying, being deceptive, excited, or exhibits other emotions. The same software, or perhaps a similar version of it, can cause a target to reveal data that he would not voluntarily tell another soul. When he hears a particular word or sees a particular object that reminds him of that secret, the software somehow alerts the handlers. They then proceed to question the target about that secret until finally the handlers know very detail. There is also software that programs the targets to think certain things or react in a certain manner when he hears particular words. Those words can be persons' names, places, or objects. The handlers particularly like to use that programming in a sexual context. For example, a male target is supposed to experience an arousal when he hears certain people's name or sees a particular scene. That software is reinforced by the handler's subliminal talking into the victim's subconscious. Programmable software. All most of the software mentioned above is programmable. The handlers can use their computers to schedule the various physical and psychological effects to function at particular times. They can also program the software to be triggered by certain target thoughts, actions, colors, and code words that they hear on TV, radio, and in conversation. They can also use habitual locations of targets to trigger those effects. Neither electronic harassment nor mind control could be carried out without the use of computers and computer software. The sophistication of the software requires the participation of medical personnel and thus implicates doctors, nurses, and other health workers in the electronic stalking and mind control scheme. If not, medical personnel had to have trained the handlers to use those programs. In addition, the software that allows the handlers to perform mind control on targets requires training provided by law enforcement and intelligence. Thus, there can be little doubt that personnel in the medical field, law enforcement, and U.S. intelligence are somehow involved in the overall electronic stalking and mind control scheme, although their participation may be rogue type action. Many targets claim that they receive directed conversation from family members, friends, and other people. I suspect that those people are being manipulated by the same handlers who manipulate the targets. Evidence suggests that millions and millions of Americans are already hooked, but most of them are not subjected to electronic stalking and mind control. However, their frequencies have been identified, cataloged, and entered into a mega computer. The computer programs used by the handlers may be able to connect the minds of the targets with those of other people to achieve the directed conversation. Those engaging in the directed conversation may be completely unaware of it or unable to resist using it. On the other hand, directed conversation perhaps does not exist, and the target's subconscious is only told subliminally that he will hear that conversation. Then again, the people directing the conversation may be accomplices automated computer to brain interfacing. I further believe that those supercomputers are being designated to connect to and work with the massive databases kept on targets already established for that purpose. That database may be the Echelon system, which is already in usage by the U.S. government to glean information on American citizens. Echelon scans the data and spits out information fetched out of the data by using key search words. Much of the handler's psychological material is already automated in the form of the previously recorded messages played to target's subconscious. It is not far-fetched to believe that in the future, human handlers will either be altogether unnecessary or drastically reduced in number. I also believe that the US government and other governments are working on a phone system that will electronically extract information from the phone owner. Here is the way it will work. A caller will telephone the phone owner, hypnotize him using particular words or methods, and use predetermined codes to ask the person questions. The person who answers will provide answers to the questions posed to him. He will be told under hypnosis not to remember the phone call. After the conversation ends, the phone owner's memory will blank out completely. he's ever having received such a call. I hope you guys like this video and information. Beware of the vaccine that coming to fruition, and also the microchip nanotechnology that will be enforced into the public later on this year. Okay, stay safe and stay ready. Talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.